In the darkness of the Indian Ocean, under a clouded sky in the early hours of June 30th, 2009, a commercial jetliner carrying 153 people began its final descent. It was supposed to be a routine landing, a quick touchdown on a remote island runway, followed by holiday reunions and family embraces. Instead, Yemenia Airways Flight 626 vanished into the sea. This is the story of a flight that defied all odds, of pilots making last-second decisions, of outdated systems, heavy winds, and a haunting question: what were the pilots thinking? This is Exclusive Crashes, and this is the tragedy of Yemenia Flight 626. Flight 626 was a regular route for Yemenia Airways, the national airline of Yemen. That night, the Airbus A310 would connect Sana'a, Yemen's capital, to Moroni, the main city of the Comoros Islands, nestled between the coastlines of Madagascar and Mozambique. The aircraft, once a proud product of 1980s European engineering, was showing its age by 2009. The Airbus A310, derived from the Airbus A300 lineage, had been a staple of medium to long-haul international travel for decades. But by this time, newer, more efficient planes had taken center stage. Yemenia had acquired this particular aircraft second-hand in 1999, a decade before the accident. But despite its age, the plane was deemed airworthy. And for most passengers aboard, the condition of the aircraft was not their concern. Their thoughts were on reunions, on holidays, on home. In the cockpit sat 3 men, 2 seasoned pilots and 1 flight engineer, an uncommon setup for an A310. Captain Khalid Hajeb, 44 years old, had been flying for Yemenia since 1989. He was experienced, having logged close to 8,000 hours in the skies, many of them on the A310. Beside him, First Officer Ali Atif, 50, was equally seasoned. Both men had flown together before. And while their familiarity with the aircraft and each other should have been an asset, it would soon become clear that experience alone doesn't always prevent disaster. Also on board was Ali Salem, a flight engineer, though little is publicly known about his role or actions on this flight. His presence in the cockpit during critical phases of flight adds a layer of mystery that would never fully be unraveled. Many of the 142 passengers had started their journeys in France, boarding connecting flights to reach Comoros, returning home, visiting family, or traveling for summer holidays. Among them was a young French girl named Bahia Bakari, just 14 years old. She was traveling with her mother. For Bahia, this trip was a gift, a bridge between her European life and her Comorian heritage. The crew, 11 in total, rounded out the manifest, bringing the total to 153 souls on board as the plane lifted off from Sana'a. As the Airbus glided southward into the night, it passed over Africa's eastern coastline. Controllers in Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Madagascar watched its progress as it neared the tiny airport at Moroni. By 1:40 a.m. local time, Flight 626 began its approach. Moroni's Prince Said Ibrahim International Airport, as picturesque as its surroundings, was also notoriously difficult for pilots. It lacked a full instrument landing system, ILS. In fact, only one runway direction, runway 02, offered limited ILS guidance. And on this night, strong southern winds of 20 to 30 knots, roughly 50 km/h, forced pilots to attempt a complex visual circling approach to land on runway 20 from the north. Here's how it worked. The pilots would fly over the airport, to intercept the limited ILS path from the south, then initiate a left-hand circle over the water, relying almost entirely on visual references to realign with the runway and land into the wind. It's a maneuver that demands absolute precision, discipline, and constant awareness of altitude. Any deviation can be deadly. As the A310 descended, the pilots deployed speed brakes to reduce altitude quickly, standard procedure. Once near the glide slope, they retracted the speed brakes, incrementally extended the flaps, and lowered the landing gear. Then came the left-hand bank, the crucial moment to begin circling the airport. At 800 feet above sea level, the autopilot disconnected. Manual control was now in the pilot's hands. The captain, likely scanning outside the cockpit windows in search of the runway lights, shifted his focus away from the instruments. The aircraft's descent rate began to spike, rapidly reaching 2,000 feet per minute. Then came the first warning. Terrain! Terrain! The ground proximity warning system was screaming. At just 400 feet, the pilots pulled the plane's nose up, narrowly avoiding disaster. But the danger hadn't passed. They attempted the circling maneuver again. As the aircraft turned over the ocean, it descended below 200 feet. Another proximity alert was triggered. The crew initiated a missed approach, raising the nose, increasing throttle, retracting the landing gear. The autopilot was re-engaged. A climb speed of 180 knots was selected, but there was a problem. The engines responded to auto-thrust commands by reducing power, because the selected speed was now higher than the plane's actual airspeed. To correct this, the captain manually pulled back on the control stick, raising the nose even further. Then Alpha Floor engaged. This automated Airbus safety feature, designed to prevent aerodynamic stall, took over by commanding maximum thrust. It recognized a critical airspeed deficiency, but it could not override poor pitch control. The nose continued to rise, beyond 20 degrees. And that's when the stall began. Warnings blared, red markers filled the attitude indicator, and the plane's fate was sealed. There was still time to push the nose down, but no corrective action was taken.
Audio log, final Yemenia 626. 626, good.
At 1:51 a.m., Yemenia Flight 626 plunged into the ocean in a nose-up position. The fuselage impacted the water tail first and disintegrated on contact. Debris scattered across the surface, life jackets, luggage, silence. But against every odd, someone survived. 14-year-old Bahia Bakari, thrown from the wreckage on impact, found herself alone in the water, injured, in shock, unable to swim. Clinging to a piece of floating debris, she drifted in the dark for over 9 hours, listening to the fading cries of others in the night. Rescuers eventually spotted her and pulled her to safety. She was the only one alive. 152 others, every single passenger and crew member, had perished. investigators determined that the cause of the crash was pilot error, specifically loss of situational awareness and improper handling during a go-around. The failure to recognize and correct a stall sealed the aircraft's fate. The tragedy drew attention to the operational challenges in underdeveloped regions, the importance of pilot training, and the dangerous reliance on visual landings at poorly equipped airports. In the years since, the Airbus A310 has almost entirely disappeared from commercial skies. Yemenia Airlines, though still operating, has not suffered a fatal crash since. But the memory of Flight 626 remains, a painful lesson etched into aviation history, and a miracle of survival in the form of Bahia Bakari, who today stands as a symbol of both heartbreak and hope. Thank you for watching this extended investigation on exclusive crashes. If this story moved you, if you value detailed, respectful storytelling of historical tragedies like this one, we invite you to join our growing community. Please hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us tell these stories with the care and depth they deserve. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you next Saturday with another true story from the skies. Goodbye.